To artists like Andrew Wyeth, perspective was essential. And when you think about it, perspective is essential for all of us. Today I'm going to try and provide some perspective on Governor Malloy's proposed modifications to the 2019 budget and to see how those modifications, or as I like to call them, cuts, might affect our community, might affect people with IDD. Hi, I'm Tom Fiorentino, President of the Arc of Connecticut Board, and thank you for joining me on the state we're in. The cuts. The governor wants to cut about $2.5 million from day in employment. Remember, we fought like wildcats to get that funding? Some of it, at least, is back on the chopping block. He wants to cut $449,000 from behavioral services, a program that is slowly being decimated. This is a program intended to help families who have school-age, adolescent children who have IDD, but also psychiatric and behavioral problems. The idea was to keep those families together and to keep the kids out of the emergency rooms. $371,000 cut to the ID partnership. The ID partnership is a good idea. It's Governor Malloy's good idea. Some of that funding is intended to actually create new placements off the waiting list. It needs to be funded. $97,000 cut from rent subsidies, $4.9 million from the big community residential line item over at DSS that funds most placements from DDS. Now, the governor does have a new line item, $5 million for emergency placements, but again, some perspective. It was the governor a while back who, for the first time in any of our memories, actually proposed cutting funding for emergency placements. So, while I'm glad there's a line item and there's money there, really, that proposal to cut emergency funding never should have been made in the first place. Some perspective on these cuts from the point of view of what could we be doing within available appropriations without violating the CBAC agreement that in essence prevents layoffs. When viewed from that perspective, it's really bad. Let me give you some examples. The top 10 overtime earners last year at DDS, mostly direct care staff, they were supposed to make each about $54,000. That's an average, okay, without their benefits. In fact, the average that those 10 made was over $203,000, not counting their benefits. You're hearing me correctly, right? So the top 10 overtime earners, mostly direct care staff, made in aggregate over $2 million. How is this a hard choice? How is reining that in not something you would do before you would cut programs, the programs that we were just talking about? Another example, the Southbury Training School Fire Department. You'll remember last year, the governor said we don't need it at all. We can save $1.6 million each year. We still have the fire department. 10 full-time firefighters for an institution with about 206 people in it. Just the overtime for those 10 full-time firefighters last year was $572,000. Think what you could do by reallocating that overtime funding to programs, to the community. Remember, nobody is losing their job. You know, in life, there are so many things that you see that you wish you could do something about and you can't. And the same is true for legislators. But this is something they can do something about. This is something in their control, and they need to hear from you that you understand the choice, that you understand that the choice is between cutting what is clearly out of control overtime at DDS and cutting vital programs for their own constituents. It's a choice between cutting, for example, the over $169,000 in overtime that a part-time worker at DDS made for total earnings last year of over $220,000. It's a choice between cutting that and potentially cutting assistance to a family struggling with a youngster who has IDD and also severe psychiatric problems. These are not hard choices, and your legislator needs to hear from you that you know they're not hard choices and that you expect them to make the right choice and that you will support them when they make the right choice. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Please go to the Arc of Connecticut website for more information. There are more podcasts to come.